Seek, above all, for a game worth playing. Oh baby, it's witchcraft contagious. I felt it for ages. We're out of these cages in this house of mages. It's witchcraft, it's dangerous. Beware of these pages. There's spells of all flavors in this house of mages. In this house of mages. In this house of mages.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Make Yoga Magick Again, the House of Mages podcast. I'm Daniel Cumming. In this episode, I chat to Kimmana Nichols. Kimmana has been an Ayurvedic practitioner and naturopath for over 20 years. He's given talks all over the world on Ayurvedic nutrition, mantra, yoga, Jyotish, and Vedic Astrology. It was actually one of Kimmana's talks on Vedic Astrology that actually drew me in and where I first met him. Kimmana was a guest speaker at an event that I co-organized, and I didn't actually know him at the time. I'd heard his name around, but I'd never seen him speak. And as soon as he got up and he started speaking about Vedic Astrology, I, like everyone else in the crowd, was completely drawn in. There was something unique about the way that Kimmana spoke from his body, brimming with all this knowledge and experience and passion for what he's delved into for, from the sounds of it, his entire life. And it was just contagious, and I had to chat to him. Since then, we've had some epic conversations, one of which I'm very excited to be sharing with you right now. And Kimmana has really just opened my world to Jyotish and Ayurveda in a whole new way. He is the absolute embodiment of the word mage, and it's been such an honor to spend time with him, to learn from him, and now to be sharing him with you. So I would absolutely love to introduce Kimmana Nichols. All right, we are live. Kimmana Nichols, thank you very much for joining me, brother. Welcome to the House of Mages.
Oh, so happy to be here with you, Daniel. Really looking forward to the opportunity to share. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while because we've had some brief chats after I went to your talk on Vedic Astrology at the Sunshine Coast Conscious Collective. That's how me and Kimmana met. And yeah, I just remember sitting there, and it was just a really interesting topic that I wanted to delve into anyway. But I just remember just seeing you lighting up, talking about it. And I just wanted to, pick your brain and chat to you about magic and wizardry and basically everything that you do. So really excited to actually have a proper chat to you about it.
It was such a great gig down at the Conscious Collective there. Really awesome crew. It was a great vibe. We really got some amazing insights into astrology, enlightenment, and this 12-step journey we all go through. Yeah, I loved that event.
Yeah, and for anyone listening to this, Kimmana's talk will be on House of Mages as well. And he is creating a course on Vedic Astrology, which will be on House of Mages eventually. And I definitely want to chat about all of that, but we're going to try to keep at least half of this podcast to more of kind of Ayurvedic nutrition, because that's the first course that Kimmana is going to be sharing on House of Mages. So I guess the first question would be, how did you start getting into Ayurveda, yoga, what I would call magic? And have you kind of always had an interest in, I guess, mystery and unraveling the mysteries of the world?
Yeah, well, it definitely started from an early age. I'm the third generation from a whole family of holistic healers and educators that have been into the mystery, the magic, the health, the healing, that side of life for a long time. And how did I first get into like yoga and Ayurveda? It's actually through my grandfather, Jimmy Carruthers, and his wife, Myra Carruthers. Jimmy Carruthers was Australia's first world champion boxer, and he was also a vegetarian and a yogi. And there's photos of him, like this is rare, Sydney back in those days. We're talking quite a while ago. I'm not even sure the specific year when he won the world championship, but back in the 60s, I would say, or something. Then at that period, maybe even early 50s, yeah. So this whole ability to tune into your superhumanness, this willpower of the mind, and seeking for that from Indian cultures has been an early early inspiration from my family there. And then after that period, I've been to India and studied natural medicine, naturopathy, other different forms. But the original inspiration is absolutely my family.
That's really cool, brother. So is there any particular memories that you have that you can like were maybe a turning point for you, or really like a spark that this stuff is something that you really want to pursue?
Oh, there's a few different specific points over my life. Yeah, for sure. One of the earliest ones in relation to my grandfather and that whole experience, because he passed away when I was quite young, when I was like 5, 6 years old. He passed away. And so those memories are really early in that context, but they form the like, wow, the world is so much more. And magic is sometimes associated with loss, death, mystery. It's like, whoa, the unknown. How did something change? And what do we reach for in those times of the unknown? And it was these deeper philosophies that I had been instilled within through my father and my grandfather of something bigger, something more meaningful, something magical and mysterious that even my grandfather, that presence, that strong willpower, that connection and love and drive that he had was still there with me through those philosophies. So really being able to call and draw upon generational wisdom through that magical understanding of the lineage and how it's there in me. That would be one of the earliest ones. And then as I grew up, my grandmother also owned one of the first health food stores in Sydney. So I got right into food amongst her through that blessing. I'm actually not very good at cooking food because I was so supported with cooks as I was growing up and those things, but more in how to align it, what might be the most ideals for people. And that really sparked my interest in nutrition, food as medicine. And their health food store was Carruthers Food for Thought.
Yeah, that's so interesting, brother. Because I'm really interested as well, the kind of lineages and I guess who inspired you, what kind of styles, what authors, because I'd be interested to get your point of view on this as well. Because as I understand it, there's, I guess you could break it into 3 in the idea around what people think of yoga, right? So we've got yoga, which is kind of like self-inquiry. It's got who am I, what's my place in the universe kind of thing. And then you've got Ayurveda, which is kind of like the science of living, kind of longevity, how to live a good, fruitful life and enable you to seek the mysteries, I guess. But then you've got Tantra, which is kind of, okay, how do I evolve and expand myself, and how do I have, I guess, power to do the things that I want to do and support the people I love and all these kind of things. So, because, you know, you do focus on Ayurveda, but I mean, you've obviously got some experience in kind of all 3. So yeah, I guess what are the lineages that you kind of draw from, and do you see it as a similar kind of triplicity idea?
Yeah, to a certain degree, I do. The triplicity that I use, though, where you had yoga, Ayurveda, I would put Jyotish where Tantra was. Jyotish is the science of light, and Tantra would be a certain years period incarnation of Jyotish, if you get what I mean. Yeah. It's like Jyotish is this divine light knowledge that is spreading this message, this Tantra, this illuminated message to us to guide us through life. And that's what a Tantra does. It guides us and guides our mind. So Jyotish is a science of light that's designed for guiding. In our modern day interpretation of Jyotish, it's often translated as Vedic Astrology, but really it's much more than that. It's a whole system of understanding light and its various ways that it influences magic, our destiny, our karma, and shapes our lives and our minds. So here we'd be looking at those different types of light, those different incarnations, those planetary bodies or movements on a compass, or these things, we describe them, of how they draw in and pull energy in towards a specific place. And therefore that comes to like religious philosophies, and Tantra might sometimes be seen as a bit more of a Venus or sun related philosophy within Jyotish. And then we could include other different philosophies now within that Jyotish realm. Buddhism, all of them come within that realm. So the journey of Ayurveda as a science of form and matter is actually in Jyotish, in Vedic astrology, governed by the energy of Mercury. Like it's feeding in from that port of the triangle, from the divine light, that Mercury, which is associated with intellectual equanimity, healing, herbs, the ability to choose with the mind and not get emotionally attached to something. These are the things that would be a great strength when using Ayurveda. So that could be someone's spiritual path, if you get what I mean there. So Jyotish is looking at someone's spiritual path. Then Ayurveda is looking at someone's physical path. Yoga is just looking at the fact that you don't need a path. You are united. You are one. You're already there. You are the self. You've made it. So when I talk about that triangle of scientific wisdom from the Vedic sciences, I often refer to sacred divisions, sacred mathematical divisions that they like to use. So the sacred divisions associated with the triangle of yoga are 1 and 3. You are one, you are inseparable, you are the absolute, you are part of this being that is just the one in the one in the one in the one in the one. As long as you go, it's just more of the same, one in the one. And sometimes as a human that feels separate, you might need a little language of leading separateness to unity to be able to unite your mind with the divine. So it's division of 1, you are the one, division of 3. This division, this sacred division in the Vedic is sattva, rajas, tamas. So we polarize back and forth between rajas and tamas, between form and desire, between past and future, to try and find our present moment awareness, unity with the one. That's the yoga, that's the bottom of the triangle. And then they keep moving through sacred divisions from there. Then we'd have Ayurveda over here, and its sacred divisions are 3 and 5. They have a relationship to each other. They're like lenses of how you look at life, these sacred divisions. This one's designed, the yoga one, to lead us to unity. The Ayurveda ones are designed to lead us towards balance and harmony in relation to materialism. We're all human. We're part of the material form. We've got to move through resources in and out of the being and move them around. And that's how we can define balance and harmony, through 3 doshas, vata, pitta, kapha, and 5 elements. Ether, space, wind, fire, water, and earth. They're the sacred divisions used here. Now, part of this podcast is also because we're introducing the topic of this Vedic nutrition course. Essentials Ayurvedic nutrition is what I really look at it as the label. Yet when we get down to it, it's sort of like unfolding the messages of the heart, where we're trying to get back to this heart that can tune into its own intuitive state, that can tune into the magic of the moment. And it's those sacred divisions of yoga are the first key to that. So we'll be learning about that, sattva, rajas, tamas, inside that course. Because when we get towards that sattva, that harmony, that present moment awareness, we realize the unity of the one. We're guided by the magic of the heart. We're guided by this intuition that's constantly there. When we're experiencing more tamas and rajas, these polarities of form and desire, then we cloud our heart, the ability to perceive the magic, to realize that, the spirit of my grandfather is still with me, is clouded. I can't feel it and experience it as much anymore. Whereas part of that course is about seeing what in your diet, in your food, in your lifestyle is clouding your heart. What tamas and rajasic influences could be influencing you in a challenging way, and what tamas and rajasic influences might you want to keep? What are important? They're still part of the picture. You're still part of the creation. And then in the Ayurveda sense, we'll go a little bit into the 3 doshas, vata, pitta, kapha. I hope this wasn't too much of a sidetrack, but now we need to continue into the other zone there. So we won't be covering so much of the Jyotish until later chapters in this whole mage's journey together. Yet we'll look at that nutrition, introducing the earlier sacred divisions, 3 and 5 elements and doshas within that course. And then in the future, we'll start to look at these higher divisions that come from Jyotish that would include the messages from Tantra within a archetypal system, if you get my meaning there. Now, 9 and 12 or 7 and 12 are the most likely divisions used in this Jyotish direction.
Well, that's the thing I think as well, that I really want to touch on as well, that it's so important to practice, to intellectualize this stuff, but then actually absorb it into the body and to practice and to take bite-sized pieces and absorb it. And especially like the idea that you were talking about, union and separation, when you intellectualize it, they're completely different concepts, and people can't understand or fathom the idea that they might be the same thing, like the whole paradox. And like paradoxes, I don't think can be intellectualized. They need to be experienced. And it's almost that like hovering on the edge type of thing, for me anyway, my experience of a paradox. And I think that's why, the idea of like armchair magicians or armchair mages kind of read a lot and intellectualize stuff, but they're missing the point. And that's what I really want to come back to a lot is tracing it back to the intention, because I think that's what you're saying as well, breaking all these pieces down and saying these are the intentions that we're doing, and these are the expressions of it, but each person's expression of that is different. Because I had a lot of aversion to the idea of nutrition for quite a long time, and I think this is good for me to get back into it from this different perspective, because years ago I started studying a bit of nutrition, and at the time I was also getting into veganism and starting to become vegan or plant-based at least, and just looking at the general mainstream idea of nutrition, I was like, everything's a lie. It just didn't fit. And and I guess this one size fits all idea in a lot of the Western nutrition idea. And I guess trying to break that down into a way that I guess is adaptable, shifting, changing, and individual, and as well that can be linked to all the other practices that I guess I was doing. So it's nice to actually come back to this idea. But I guess as well, I'm really interested in your personal practices, because everything that you just said is, a lot. There's obviously, I feel like we need to do a whole bunch of podcasts to cover all these different things. But where would you suggest someone to start? I guess from the Ayurvedic, both from an Ayurvedic nutrition perspective, but also to start practicing to link to all the other things, all the other pieces of it. What are your personal practices, and where would you suggest someone start?
Yeah, if I look at suggest to start, it's in those simple divisions, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Just look at those polarities in life, in food, in your daily habits, like tamas being rest, rajas being activity. So as an example, in my daily practice, I'm just about to do this podcast. I've made time for 30 minutes before this. Yeah, I had tax meetings and sessions and all sorts of stuff that's on today, but I made sure I could drop down. I took my nervous system into full tamas. I got horizontal on the ground, and I went into inertia, stillness. I thought about my body, my form, my physicality, and through scanning my mind through my body, I was able to keep my body present here in this form, my mind present here, and relax. And I come into this and I'm in rajas, activity. What's the question? What's going? Nervous system stimulation. So our biggest thing to learn about is how that is happening to some degree with everything that you do. There is tamas and rajas with everything that you do. Inactivity, activity. Each food that you eat gives you either dullness, slows you down, makes you want to lie down, or amps you up, charges you, gives you desire, activity, direction. Understanding what is your nature. Are you predominantly tamasic more? Do you want to lay down more and just chill? And then maybe you don't want to eat as much of those foods. And it's exactly what Daniel's saying here. To really get this Vedic wisdom, we're really getting self-responsibility. We're getting that I can't give you the eternal practice. All I can give you is this will be pretty good, and this is the lens of how to be able to look through it and guide when I'm meant to move into that more intense practice, into that down. I'm not meant to eat this food all year round. I'm meant to listen to seasonal cycles. It seems like so much to take in. But once we learn a Vedic system, a Vedic language, we realize it's all just ebbs and flows. It's like, of course winter is tamasic. Of course it's drawing in. It's introverted. It's more about the body and the home. Of course summer is rajasic. It's extroverted. It's outwards. It's drawing into the world and having these cycles of going for it and energy. So it starts to just make common sense. So once people have learnt those things, they realize, oh, there's this ebb and flow that's constantly guiding. Of course, nighttime is tamasic. We draw in, we sleep, we lay down. Of course, the day and the morning is the peak of that rajas. So when we look at this cycle, we're like, oh, what do? I exercise with rajas in the morning. I'm up by doing some movements that are really stimulating the body. I'm meditating, dropping the body down at certain points where I need to get that rest as much as possible. I do mantra practice as a common practice to connect with the more subtleties of the body. Might be, in the major terms, the magic, the intuition, to uncover that part of me that is not associated with tamas and rajas. So here I'm talking about these three polarities and practices related to those three polarities, tamas, rajas, and sattva. So if we put them on a triangle now, we'd have tamas and rajas at the bottom. They're like the human polarities that we just like to jump back and forth. I'm not doing anything, I'm doing lots. I'm doing nothing, I'm doing lots. And this sattva is the present moment awareness. In the element system, it's related to our heart awareness, to our subtle body, to our ability to listen, to sit in stillness. So I make sure that every day I try and get in stillness time. I just fully listen. I do a mantra practice. I give spaciousness in my food. I try not to eat too many tamasic, heavy foods that dull me down. And I listen to my body for that subtle dance of where it's going too far. What are the most tamasic foods? What did I just eat? Yeah. I look at my awareness of desire and find a balance with that, with those rajasic foods as well.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on a couple of key points that you said, especially about listening and self-responsibility, because that's the thing as well. I think, a lot of the time for so long, a lot of us has just been told that this is the way that the world is. This is the way that, nutrition works and your body works. And it's just not working for so many people. And a lot of people's bodies and life in general is screaming at them, but they can't understand what it's saying because they haven't developed a language. They haven't learned to listen. So some people are learning to listen. So I think a lot of people that have meditation practices are kind of sitting and listening, but they just haven't developed a language with their body. So the body's trying to tell them things and they're just trying to decrypt it and figure it out. And I think Ayurveda is perfect because that's what I see magic as, right? It's a form of communication. So that, I work with the runes a lot. Runes are essentially just a language to communicate with my inner and outer world. And I think a lot of people are craving what Ayurveda can give them at the moment, like a language to communicate with their body. And I think it's just, such an important piece at the moment for people to get this language. So, what's your kind of take on that?
Right on, Daniel. That's exactly what I teach people a lot about, is that ability to listen to the signs of the body, listen to what those signs and symptoms are telling us. They're literally like the body holding up signs to go, this is what's happening inside the body mind right now. And this is how you can adapt and listen to the flow. You've gone too much in the rajas direction. Oh, you've gone too much in the tamas direction. And once we understand the signs, otherwise we're just like, what does that mean? I don't know. They're speaking a different language. But if we know the language and it's built into the divine law, like just because I teach it for your body in Ayurveda actually means you know it in relation to your business. You know it in relation to weather pattern. You now know it in relation to the whole of creation, because the language itself is a signs and symptoms related to how qualities function. Heat, cold, dry, moist. These opposing qualities teach us about it in food, in weather patterns. So it creates this unification connection. It's like, oh, I got that sign. There it was, loud and clear. And the things that can balance it are these. The things that imbalance it are these. So it really gives that empowerment back to the person. It's like having a constant little radar to check in with. And the radar works stronger the less tamas and rajas are clouding that energy of the heart. So excess of those two will decrease your body's ability to listen to the tiniest messages, to go, oh, it was really subtle. I didn't need the big, massive sign or the huge skin condition on my body or the relationship breakup, to see that dosha, that defect, that challenge forming and building already in the relationship, in the body, in the business. We're able to tune it in and guide it into the most positive direction at an earlier stage. So I think that's the magic of life, isn't it? That change in the unknown, going that, oh, it's moving in this direction. Everyone thinks it's moving in that direction. And then all of a sudden, now it's going in a different direction. You didn't notice it, you didn't see it, and whoa, now we're going in another direction. And it's our ability to tune into the moment with these signs that allow us that quick change. It's interesting in Jyotish, in Vedic Astrology, the eighth division, the eighth house, is the one that's associated with Ayurveda. It's called the house of Ayurveda in some texts. It's definitely associated with therapy, and it's also called the house of death, the house of change. It's associated with this like boom, quick change. Who needs to live? Who needs to die? And if we don't have some good signs and feedback loops at that point, that equation of life, that eighth house dynamic, who needs to live? Who needs to die? Gets really difficult for us. It can be one of the most challenging houses. And it's said in Ayurveda, the eighth house, in Vedic astrology, the eighth house is the most associated with suffering, hardship, because it's either you did have the signs or you didn't. And the evolution from there, from the eighth house to the ninth house, the ninth house is associated with the house of yoga. So you asked me about Ayurveda and yoga within this context. I'm making this link here. We're making this spiritual evolution as we're moving through the houses, different lessons as we evolve to enlightenment. So the eighth, ninth lesson that we're shifting through here is this lesson of trust in the unknown, looking for the clues, but not fully knowing. Having to be like, oh, there's a sign that said me this direction, but I've never been there before. I'm going to follow it anyway. I'm going to listen to this dynamic change, this shift. It's not the way I thought. I've come up against something. There's a clue. There's always a clue at that eighth house dynamic change point that's going on. Our ability to read the signs easily, trust in the unknown and go for it is this evolution to the ninth house, union. That's the yoga, the full trust in where we are. The eighth house to some degree is a little bit still like, oh, I don't know. Where am I at? Maybe it's this. Let's try something. Am I going to unite with the eighth house? The herb has to die. And through that unification, life and death, who had to die in order for me to live? And I took it, and now the herb united with me, ninth house. I listened to the sign right. It united with my brain. Maybe it was some Brahmi, made me more conscious and aware in my mind and able to focus and communicate well. And that's the ninth house evolution. Listening to the signs well at that moment brings in the next ninth house. Or we don't listen to the signs. We don't see them. We don't have any language. And we go through the eighth house, full experience, death, loss, and that starts the house cycle again. Each moksha point, 4th, 8th, and 12th, are about going through the recycle of the lessons. We all need to cycle through them in various ways. Comes back to a body-based lesson.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear like because other than obviously, magic in general and all this like can make our life better, but I'm interested in how it changes our lens on the cosmos and life, death, and all that. So I'm really interested in seeing kind of your lens on the cosmos. And I guess the best way to delve into that is to talk about the idea of death or the idea of, reincarnation or afterlife and all that kind of idea. So I guess like from your lineages, what are the general ideas around that? And what is your own personal lens so far around, around the idea of death and reincarnation and afterlife and all these kind of things? And how does that fit into the big picture of the cosmos? Just a little question.
In the Vedic belief system, it's a huge one. We'll narrow it in through a few angles. In the Vedic belief system, they do believe in reincarnation, and I do believe personally that we reincarnate. I don't know if I have strong beliefs in my beliefs for a really good reason. I choose to have my beliefs because they serve me well. And I choose not to believe in them too much because that would stop me from learning. It would put me in a closed box, and I wouldn't be able to. The way that I look at life is I go, that's cool. That's the best idea that I've heard about so far. I'm not fixed on it, and I'm really open to possibilities that could lead in various directions. So my own personal opinion on reincarnation is that we are moving energy undoubtedly from past to future, and it was the same energy before as it is now. Whether or not it's a specific me, my soul, that's incarnating in an individual sense, or whether or not it's a diverse me as my history, my lineage, my genetics, my family that's incarnating with a lesson that's right for me as a larger being, I'm still uncertain about that one right there. And that's also a little unclear in certain texts as well. So that's part of why I mentioned that at that point. Reincarnation, yes, I am a being that's evolved over billions of years, and I am also not necessarily an individual that has been in incarnation for millions or hundreds of years, different lifetimes. In the Vedic text of how they explain creation, they say that it births and expands and then contracts again and falls apart. And this they call 1 year of Brahman. This 1 year of Brahman is what we would in our modern day physics and understanding experience as the Big Bang, the original, all of the matter expanding outwards. We're going through a state of matter diffusing, being sucked into black holes in various spots. And that's where the matter all comes back in again. In our physics, this would be like a white hole. All the matter is spewed out from these white holes at the beginning of 1 year of Brahman, and then it's drawn back in again. So that is what all creation takes place within. And they say there are laws within that creation that are built in, and they always create a 5-element human being with 5 sense organs, 5 ways they can sense and experience the creation and karma, and 5 action organs, 5 ways they can affect and influence the creation and karma. Besides that, it's our free will that we get to use throughout this 1 year of Brahman. Here we go. We've got 1 year to live what we experience as billions of years, to live and die. So this cycle of life and death is built into even the cosmos and the larger being.
Yeah, well, if you look at suns and black holes, right? Like a sun, expands, and then eventually it collapses and sucks everything into a finite point, gets really hot and explodes again and expands. I mean, it kind of makes sense. And it's interesting as well, you touching on that, because I'm really into obviously like Indo-European kind of mythology, Norse mythology, but we've had little conversations about this before, because of the Norse gods are named after the current days of the week, and you talked about the days of the week attributed to the planets, because a lot of what we've lost over the years has been, I guess, Anglo-Saxon, English, Indo-European, our belief systems and things in the past, but yet in the Indian texts, we've still got a lot of it intact, and it's obviously passed on a lot more as well. It's more of an unbroken tradition. So do you find that there's a bit of a linkage there? Have you looked into, I guess, the links between the cultures and how these belief systems link up? Because the mythologies in particular are very, very much alike in the creation system.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of mythologies share a common root, and that first common root is Jyotish. Whether we've given it a Sanskrit name here, we're talking about the divine light that is guiding and sharing philosophy and information through creation. It's built into the laws. It comes through and it teaches us through that ether element, that heart space, that intuition. It's constantly sharing. So beings across Earth have been getting downloads from that Jyotish wisdom, from something beyond something that we share with each other. Now, in the Vedic things, they say the rishis, the 7 rishis, created these ancient texts, the Vedas. Rishi means to shine, a star to shine. So here we're looking at energy from planets that are teaching us information, these larger beings been around for a long time, sharing wisdom with us. So it's not surprising at all that in the Norse gods, they used those gods, those planetary bodies, which have a huge relationship. So Thor's day is Jupiter's day in the Vedic tradition. Moon's day is Monday, Moon's day as well. So I don't know the Norse god associated with the Monday there, but you see a similar archetype. We've got the same 7 days of a week that are going on. We've got 7 planetary bodies that reflect light back to the naked eye. It's only 7 of them, the sun, the moon, and 5 other planets that you can see with the naked eye, representing these 7 key lessons, the most important. Remember, I talked about Jyotish. It's either 7 and 12 or 9 and 12 as their key ones. So here we see the 7 days of the week, showing again the Norse people philosophy believed that these 7 things were so important for us to be able to be reminded of on a weekly basis, that we should devote our lives to this archetypal rainbow of wisdom, if you get what I mean. That's splitting apart wisdom into these different categories. And it's all teaching us unity. It's always about the 7 in the one. 7 in the one is trying to lead us back to that one. So I believe that there is a huge relationship, and I don't know enough about the Norse to be able to draw lots of relationships straight away here, more in the context that knowledge is universal. It's being spread, and we see masses of sharings between those different places and similarities that are going on, such as the days of the week and the planets and their belief in something bigger than themselves and these gods being pieces of that whole.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing as well, because they did get Christianized at some point, which is a positive in a lot of aspects, because they wrote down a lot of the things that they carried on, but also they lost a lot, and a lot of things kind of got shifted and transposed and passed on. But I think that's the idea as well, that we're looking for pieces, almost like an organ transplant, and it just seems like the Ayurvedic, the Tantric, these traditions, they just fit in so well in the gaps that we're missing as well, with a lot of these like kind of Celtic traditions, all that kind of branch of traditions and practices. Yeah,
I would agree to some degree, because we've had that 5,000 year unbroken lineage of written texts that have come through from the Rig Veda to today. Many scholars believe them to be the oldest written book-like texts, not a stone tablet, but a written book-like text that we've preserved today. It is the Rig Veda, and the wisdom from that Indian subcult Pakistani area society, the Vedic culture that existed a long time ago. And they were so intent on an integrative system. That was their key thing. So it allows any other philosophies, once you understand the deeper roots, you're not looking at the exoteric practices of the Vedic society and necessarily using their gods, but the esoteric meanings behind those energies. And when you understand the esoteric meanings, that is interchangeable into every different philosophy of life and gives depth to it, because you've got an unbroken lineage that has used that as their system, an integrative, all-inclusive system for so long.
And this one, I think there's such a difference in people that actually practice these types of things and people that just kind of intellectualize it or just read about it, because they see it as these separate cultures and they see it as these separate practices, but they don't see the underlying intentions behind it. What we're talking about before, the different expressions. That's how the different cultures have expressed this same essence, this same light, this same idea. But yet we're all like, oh no, that's very different from that, and that's very different from that. And people get really frustrated. I get really frustrated when people aren't understanding the intention behind it and why it fits in so well. There's a difference between just like hodgepodge and throwing everything together, which people do in practices a lot these days. But also there's a reason behind why certain things fit. And I think it's, that's very connected to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a beautiful connective system. Integrates many, and you can get greater, deeper insight on all sorts of religions, philosophies, and practices through it.
But I also like the scientific aspect behind it as well, because obviously a lot of it is very esoteric, but I think a lot of the practices carry on to a lot of different traditions as well. I find it almost like the center pillar that helps you delve more and embody any other belief system more. It's because I feel it's less dogmatic, because obviously there's a lot of the mythology and stuff around it, but it does, I find, fit in well with a lot of different systems, because especially yoga and Tantra and Ayurveda, because it is just trying to unravel the mysteries, I guess, as far as I understand it.
A classic example of this would be like the integration of Jesus into Hinduism. Like, this is how integrative it is, that Hindus are just like, oh, they praise Jesus. He's just another idol. He's a representation of a specific aspect of creation. He's an idol that is associated with sun, leadership, bringing you back to God, and Venus, these caring, nurturing. So many Jyotish people would say that the Christian religion is Sun and Venus orientated in its dominance. So there's certain aspects within. So they just go, oh, look, it's perfect. There's another way that you could lead yourself to God. There's so many different ways to God. I'm not going to judge your path to be wrong to my path. And there's another way up the mountain. Oh, great. You worship that. I worship this. We don't need to fight over different gods. They figured that out a long time ago. Let's have hundreds of gods. Everyone gets their own God. And that way you don't have to go, wait a second, but he's my God. Like, no. Oh, you've got your own God. I've got my own God. We can all celebrate our own gods together, and we're still on the same team. Yeah. That makes sense.
Completely, man. Yeah, because, I mean, I've been to Iceland, and they've got a museum of witchcraft and sorcery there, and they've got all these old Icelandic grimoires, right, from the medieval age, where these peoples were introduced to Christian and Catholic culture, and they've got these spells that call on Thor as well as Jesus within the same grimoire, right? Yeah. So they saw it the same way. They're just like, oh, he's just an archetype, or he's just like, I want to draw on both of them. Like, Thor and Jesus can hang out, you know, it's fine. Like, it's yeah. Whereas,
and that's what you see a lot with integrative cultures around the world, like Native Americans as well. They just integrated it in. They were like, oh, the cross. Well, we worship the four directions already. And it's got a cross symbol. We use that symbol all the time. And we're like, oh, it's the same symbol. It's the four directions, represents Jesus. And they just adapt and integrate in. So you see that a lot with integrative practices, integrative philosophies, easier to bring it in there.
And that's what I'm really interested in. I think a big piece of House of Mages is just introducing people to different ideas. Because these days, like there's, you know, like the idea of cancel culture, and a lot of people just can't fathom other people's ideas about things that they're interested in, especially when it comes to religion and other ideologies. And I mean, like, what do you find helps people to, I mean, I think this is the question, right? Like, what helps people to lessen the attachment to an idea and to be a bit more open and compassionate and understanding of other people's belief systems, and even, you know, mix it as part of their own? Like, what is the key to it, bro?
So the key to it from the Jyotish perspective is the later houses. So the first 4 houses are lessons related to the self. The last 4 houses are lessons related to our relationship partners, our family. We may learn a little bit about acceptance of others and their cultures from relationships with others, but often we gravitate towards those that are similar to us there. So the way we really learn about it the most in some way is through the later houses. These are lessons related to the world. So the 9th to the 12th houses, this is our journey towards enlightenment. So the 9th and the 12th house represent some of the 2 most important lessons related to that. 9th is unity. It's also expressed as the house of travel and the house of the father, the house of the authority figure. So here we need to shape all of those things to influence and shape our mind for the best, to think of unity. Who shares that message from authority? So this is a big one. If we really want to look at that, think of who you listen to as your authority. Who's your son archetype? Who's your father? They've maybe passed away, your father, but you still listen and go, yeah, that's, if he says it, then that's a good idea or not. We're talking about a child listening to the father and going, yep, this is what I need to do or not, in an ideal orientation. The 9th house, Dharma, direction, leads us to unity when that father's right on. He knows the rules of the territory. He's been there before, and he's speaking that unity direction. We've been through this separation bullshit another time. I've been there, I've experienced it, and now I'm going to share it with you and tell you that it seems like it's separation again, but it's not. The nature of the territory is actually unity, and that's where we need to come from, the nature of the territory, what we're listening to, and part of that house is travel. So as we go to different places, we hear different voices on what's right for the territory. We become ourself, our own son, our own ninth house, our own leader, our own father of our own territory. We start to speak to ourself and guide ourself through those travel experiences, through those words that came from authority, and we are sharing that message with ourselves. So that's where we need to catch it the most, is what are we as human beings sharing between who we respect as our authority, who we're choosing to listen to, and is it a message of unity? Or is it a message that brings us into challenge and, maybe not, I don't like that, or it's a message of, it's all good, we're going to get through, this is where we need to go. And we've seen a lot of challenge in relation to that and our authority figures lately. There's been a real combination that you're all aware of that's gone through in life recently that has impacted authority in quite a challenging way. And it's on the move now, and that Ketu influence that was part of it that we had to detach to and experience authority, we went, that's not unity. That's not what I want to listen to. That's an eighth house experience. I need to cut out that which makes me weak. Let go of that. That's not my authority. And I'm going to choose to put my ears somewhere else. I'm going to listen to different authority that's speaking unity, that's speaking that direction. So part of the practice is that. I went a little bit deep there, especially with the sun and the way it's being led to that.
That was good, bro. I liked it.
Yeah. The next one is the 12th house. So we've got the 9th house. It's about Dharma to the world. It's about travel. It's about where you get your belief systems from. It's about learning different spiritual philosophies that unite us. It's about that wisdom. And the 12th house is about letting go of the way you thought it was meant to be. Just fully surrender that anytime we see like, oh, no, they're doing this, or oh, maybe not that, then that's where we need to just drop, let go. It's not our responsibility to get involved if we can't be there and actually change something about it. It's like that desiderata line of having the wisdom to know the difference between those things you can change and those things you can't. And that 12th house is that lesson of just full surrender. It's meditation, it's introspection. It's going, it's time to just drop. And when we do more of those practices, we drop, we introspect, we meditate, we allow life to just wash away and lose our attachments towards things. We settle into the natural space of unity that creation is. It's that tamas rajas that comes with attachment to the old, desire for the new, that'll stop us from being in that full present moment awareness, tapped into the now in that unification sense.
Yeah, and the difference I feel between information and knowledge, because we're bombarded with so much information, but I feel like knowledge really more along the lines of stuff that you've experienced yourself. But the thing is as well, we have this like bombardment of information, but also with the algorithms of social media and things these days, the idea of confirmation bias. So we might be exposed for some information, and then we search a little bit more, and then just more and more is fed it. And then these algorithms kind of just show us more of what we're looking up already, and it just perpetuates that. And we might have no personal experience of this matter, but we've got so many opinions on it now that it becomes a reality for us. And yeah, I think it's a tricky situation, because it's almost like you have to get in early. So people, teach people critical thinking is an important part, I feel, of House of Mages, because there are some amazing things out there, and sometimes we can get a little overexcited and fanatical about these ideas. But I think the best way that I feel like the universe generally does it to me anyway. I feel like those, I kind of get really, excited about an idea, delve fully into it, feel like I'm really embodying it. And then, the universe kind of, throws me a curveball and then grounds me, humbles me, and then I come back to where I started from and a new perspective. And I think that's why you were touching on it earlier, the unknown. And that's, I think, a big piece of it as well, in my experience, is that I will never know. Like, I'll only, constantly trying to figure it out, because I feel, and I want to know your perspective on this, I feel like the universe has this sense of mischievousness, because I feel like as soon as I'm close to figuring it out, it just like shifts, or as soon as I try to grab it, it slips between my fingers, or as soon as I feel like I'm looking this way and everything's over this way, it kind of like sends me a curveball this way. And it feels like even when magic works, it seems to always work in a way that I don't expect. It's like it slips through the shadows. Like I've got lights beaming in every direction, ready to see how the universe is working. And then it finds a way to slip into a tiny little shadow. And it's just always, it's always just, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. When they, in the Vedic mythology, they talk about Kal being the being that is governing this realm of time that we all live in. So that 1 year of Brahman that we're talking about, that's all within the realm of Kal. And he was given this time to govern. And one of his roles was to keep people in here for as long as possible. And we think, what? It's like a prison. Why are we stuck within this thing for as long as possible? And really, in the sense of the gods, the deities, whatever you want to call it, the larger universal intelligence that created this and Kal and the whole thing, it's more like a kindergarten. It's more like, are you able to really have the ability to use the potential of magic that you have? Well, let's check and see. Because in this kindergarten, I'm going to give you only 1/100th of your percentage of power possibilities. And I'm going to take you through cycles of lessons and lessons and lessons of going, are you working for yourself or are you working for the team? What are you doing with that magic? With that ability to shape and influence both your being, all of the beings inside it, bacteria, cells, your environment, all the beings around you, you are magically shaping the direction of Kal creation time with your abilities. And it's this cycle lesson that's built into the creation to go, are you ready for the next grade? You're going to move beyond kindergarten. And it just keeps on giving us that cycle test. So Kal's responsibility is that you can't see the next realm and how it works from in here. While you're in this zone, it's a creation law according to the Vedic system that we don't see it so easily. Unless you are the enlightened yogi that goes beyond the realm of Kal. And in the Vedic system, a lot of the cultures and different philosophies that come in there, this one's coming from a Sikh saint by the name of Kabir. His belief system is that most beings that can move in and out of that realm were already from the other realms and they chose to come in. And it's only we that move out over time. When we go out, we could choose to come in and out. But beings that are here that can also at the same time experience and know what's beyond time. We're already from beyond time, already graduated kindergarten, and we're just coming back in because they wanted to come in for a while, if you get what I mean. So they're the full mastery mages that have gone beyond the realm of time and have come back in for a flash. Meanwhile, there's you and me, there's the humans down here, going through our spiral lessons of how much can we empower that magic, learn more, to some degree prove that we are ready to transcend, that we are ready to unlock the full potential of our power, that we're ready to understand that bigger mystery. And until we're there, it's going to be lots of spirals to get us there.
Yeah, because I want to ask so much around that. Right? Like, I know it's tricky because I can't fathom what the next existence is because I'm in this existence. I mean, I've had like moments both in very deep meditation and breath work as well as psychedelics, but I still, I still feel it's all here. I don't feel like there's almost somewhere else. It's just, I guess it's language that we're using as well, but I'm interested in your point of view of what that transcendence means, because I kind of feel like everything is constantly recycled. I guess what I'm currently interested in is the idea of continuity, like, because if we're all from, the same pool, right, or the same ocean, and we kind of get precipitated, and then it starts to rain, and we're in individual droplets for a little while, right, experiencing everything else, but then we come back to that ocean again. How do we, like, what's your perspective on, I guess, the collective unconscious? Like, do we grow almost individual souls, that we take different parts of ourselves ongoing? Or with the idea of reincarnation, are we all just, were we every person that was incarnated? Or do you think, so when we talk about reincarnation, I guess I'm going on tangents, but I'll ask a specific question. When it comes to the idea of reincarnation, I kind of see two different ideas around it. One, that we're individual souls that have been through our ancestors or things like that, been reincarnated, or we're all from the same pool. So I was essentially everyone that has been before. I was, and you were. I wasn't individual souls. Is that making sense? Is like, what's your kind of perspective on that?
Yeah. So I'm going to touch on a few things there. The first one, in terms of like, do we transcend? Does that mean we go somewhere else? It's like, no, the Radhaswami belief systems, those things, transcendence is here right now. It's boom. It's just a different vibrational field that is beyond time and space. If it's right here, it's not like, oh, you go to somewhere else. In the lineage that comes through my father, it's the Radhaswami Satsang lineage from Bias, and they talk about the levels to creation, the one we're in right now, the one just above us, the one just below us, and they're all in the realm of Kal. They're all in the realm of time. They're all subtleties of vibration, and us as human matter and form is only in that one. But there's subtleties that are still in time moving into our realm, and subtleties that are still in time moving into our realm, that are on either side of this dimension, for want of a better word. Now, as we move up through these other dimensions, various locations here, which I'm not familiar with all the names. I just know one of the ones that they talk about is Satchikhand. They talk about our journey is to be able to meditate, strip off karma, realize this unity so much that our individual soul enlightens and doesn't need to come back, moves beyond the realm of time, and could then transcend in some of these higher levels, one of them being Satchikhand. And I know Babaji has said many times, when people talk about going to Satchikhand as if they're transcending, they're going up through ladders or something, he's like, no, Satchikhand is here. We're not going anywhere. You're just releasing layers of yourself that are holding you here to the form and time. And then you experience something different from here where you are. So in their belief system, they are individual souls that are going through this realm of the journey. And to some degree, there's a bank point checking system that's going on what that soul has gone through and what it needs to merge through. Now, in that same philosophy and many other Indian philosophies, they also talk about this karmic lineage that's related to 7 generations forward and 7 generations back. So your karma is related to and influenced from 7 generations back, and what you do now is influencing 7 generations forward. So if that same philosophy is present with the other one, then we go, wait a second, that means there's some sort of group pool that I'm drawing from as well. I'm coming from a pool that's not just me. So we get a bit of this that's going on within the Vedic belief system between an individual incarnation and a group pool. And then you start to look at it and you go, well, of course. Do you think you're an individual? Like, there are more bacterial cells in your body than there are human cells in your whole body. They're all individuals too. All those cells got their own little brain. They're all individuals too. So how could we not be a pool at the same time? Does that, you know what I mean? So for that, that's why at the beginning I'm like, oh, I'm not 100%. Within the system, we see quite a bit of this individual soul that's incarnating. And that is the way most of the traditions pointed out. And yet we also see these little side loopholes, like 7 generations forward and backwards, means that I'm sharing karma with my whole family. I didn't incarnate as them specifically, but somehow I did, and I am working with it. So there's this group collective karma, energy, being that we are constantly dancing and possibly interchanging with, just as you over your life is probably sharing cells and experiencing and breathing out things that were previously you, and now they're breathed into someone else, and we're sharing different beings through that regard. So too, I think that we would step in and out of shared and individual karma over our lives, in the sense that possibly, again, this is not Vedic, this is me making a practical example, possibly we were both the same being thousands of years ago at a different point. And now we meet as separate beings to learn a lesson that was necessary for what that being did to someone else, and that dynamic. And now we gel it again through separate beings. And then later on, we merge again as one being. And we're a planet at that point, and we're 50, 60 different beings that were humans in the past, and now they're all a planet or something. Oh, please forgive me, planets. We're probably talking about billions of humans in the planets, not 50 or 60. But do you get my perspective there? I think it all depends on what they call in the Vedic system Jivat Manas and Paramat Manas. Jivat Manas is the degree to which an individual soul is bound towards its individuality. That would be more of single soul that has incarnated through single pieces. And Paramat Manas is a being that has a more aware of its universal nature. So they say the planetary bodies, the sun, the moon, all of those dynamics, they have a higher degree of Paramat Manas. They have more of this universal oneness nature, and they're probably multitudes of beings that have come into that one being now, just as we on earth are multitudes of being in the one being of earth.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for your answer, bro. I guess my current understanding that's always changing, I still have no idea, but I guess I like the idea, which I've kind of pieced together and heard about, is that it's kind of a mixture of your soul kind of takes certain parts it thinks you'll need for the next lifetime, finds a suitable vessel, I guess, for that to, learn what you want to learn in that lifetime. But also it matters what you leave behind in the physical world, right? So you can't take all your knowledge and all your tools and all your skills with you. You can take a little bit, probably the most important, because you had a small cosmic travel sack, right? And then you need to find things, but synchronicity might happen. You might find the right school, the right person to kind of teach you. So that's why it's also important to build things in this lifetime, right? And this is why I would love to have an ongoing House of Mages, I guess. So in my next lifetime, I already got all this school set up, so I can kind of re-find all the amazing teachers, including my past self. I guess that's kind of my current understanding. In 5 years, I might be like, it's all bullshit. But we'll see. But that's my current. It leads to another question as well. We won't get too into it because we're already pretty much close to an hour now. So I think it'd be good to do another podcast dedicated to Vedic astrology. But since we're on this kind of subject, what's your, I guess, view of how astrology works in the way, I guess, that, the planets are actual physical things, right? I don't understand how, I can't really expand upon that. But how much of it do you think is the actual physical thing affecting our Earth, and how much of it is the collective idea of what these things are and how these things operate, right? Do you think it's a mix of the two, and kind of how do you think they operate? Does that make sense, what I mean?
I agree that there is a degree of human manipulation and change on that planetary message that's coming through. And I would say it's probably in the 80-20. It's that magic number there where often get this within everything. It's probably 80% message coming through from those planetary beings. We could just measure them as hertz frequencies. We could measure them as just a vibration that's coming, and they've done all sorts of tests to be able to get these specific tubes, and then they put various seeds at the bottom of these tubes. They focus it on certain planetary bodies, and as Jupiter goes past, things grow more. As Mars go past, things don't grow and they aggravate. So certain planetary vibrations moving through are affecting the growth of seeds. So here we don't have that 20% that I was thinking, where our free will, our mind, our placebo effect either jumps on, yeah, it's all about this, or Mercury's retrograde now I've got an excuse to speak gibberish for a month or something. Do you know what I mean? It's part of it that absolutely is the human piece that we throw on top. But I think it's only 20%. I think 80% is a really powerful vibrationary message that's coming through these beings that is placing us upon, that's what they would say in the Vedic system, we are placed upon the wheel of time at that perfect moment for our unique karma, for our unique being to be able to evolve, not just with itself, but with a whole matrix of other beings that have journeyed and influenced together. We are placed upon that wheel of time, and those messages are continually taught over our lifetime through those planetary bodies. So that would be my own belief, that they are something that's, I mean, we look at the moon, we think, oh, wow, it looks like a big rock out there. And I only just realized recently, I was watching The Universe, a documentary, and the moon has a molten core. It's still got lava. It's still alive inside there. Like, it's still a molten core. We're looking at a being that's got an Agni, a fire, a metabolism. Sure, it's pretty cooled off and it's chilled and it's not doing much and it loves to just float around, but it's still a being that's there. And it's quite amazing to think about the subtleties that ancient rishis, ancient enlightened people picked up on, like Jupiter. They named it Guru, which means heavy in Sanskrit. It means the heaviest point, something that's really heavy. Jupiter is the heaviest planet in our zodiac system. They say wherever it is placed in a chart, it causes protection. If it wasn't for Jupiter, Earth would have been smashed a long time ago. It's the gravitational force of Jupiter that holds and protects, draws in all sorts of asteroids into its gravity and constantly protects our solar system. So has this planet, they didn't have telescopes, they tuned into this little light speck in the sky. It doesn't appear to be bigger than the other ones, yet they named it heavy. And they knew it from a heart intelligence that was shared with them, from a magic of divine light that was coming through them, from a Jyotish, a light science message that was built into creation, that was designed for us to go, oh, there is a Jupiter, a guru, a gravitational force that draws me into them. And they don't just a planet out there, it's locally too. Right now, you could be my guru, leading, influencing a gravitational force to pull me towards a specific type of knowledge. And we share that knowledge. So I believe that comes from the planets first, and then through us as a fraction of that.
That's a really cool perspective, man. A really great answer. Thank you. Yeah, I have so much more I want to ask you about it, because we'll definitely have to do another podcast soon. But I guess one more question though, do you have a practice, because you were saying that, you know, our ancestors were connecting to these planetary bodies or these things. Do you have a practice where you might meditate and focus on Jupiter and kind of develop a bit of a relationship with it?
Yeah, I generally use mantras specifically for that. So I work with certain planetary mantras depending on what the person might need in their chart. We go through certain times where it's easier to connect with those planets. As a simple one at home, people could totally just meditate, see the planet, work with it in a visual sense. Yet with the Vedic Astrology chart, we'd choose a timing period related to an astrological timing, and they would predominantly work with and use that mantra, that sound vibration, to increase the antenna. It's like, oh, I want to tune it to the same thing so I can listen and get the download more. I'll use a mantra that'll tune me into that frequency. Now we can harmonize together.
So much I want to ask you, bro, but I'll leave it to the next podcast about it, and I'll just make a list of all these questions. But yeah, I guess just to kind of lead out to come back to where we started on the Vedic nutrition. I guess what would be the type of person that would want to delve into this course that you're going to be sharing on House of Mages, the Vedic nutrition?
Yeah, it's anyone that has an interest in food and its relationship to spirituality and balance. So a lot of different nutritional philosophies are really just looking at the body. They're looking at the vehicle. They're not looking at its relationship to life, purpose, creation as a whole. So this course for the nutrition enables you to be able to assess those questions of spirituality, morality, and body balance. That not everyone needs to be vegan, and yet everyone needs to try a bit. Everyone needs to understand where is the direction and how much I can have a diet that supports the larger being. And what's beautiful about that is that when you do that, it naturally nourishes you more. The larger being goes, you're getting the lesson. You're working for the team. Now I can give you other ways to build up and karmically nourish your life. So it's for anyone that's interested in nutrition in a bigger cycle of life purpose and balance. And we'll also teach a little bit of Ayurveda, some entry-level Ayurveda on the doshas, lifestyle therapies in there as well, and what foods might be best to dominate with for each dosha too.
Awesome, brother. Really looking forward to it. Well, thank you, man. Is there anything else you want to anything else you want to say on the subject, or anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
Mainly, I'd just like to thank a lot of my teachers. I haven't had the time to be able to really go into that in depth. There's such an array of different lineages that I've drawn together in that regard. So if you go onto my website, kimmana.com, you're able to see the full list of my teachers there. In relation to yoga and Ayurveda, Dr. Nilesh Tari is definitely someone that I would be thanking. Barbara No as well, that I founded the Thai Vedic Yoga School with, would be a key highlight. But I'd love you to check out all of those teachers and honor the lineage where this knowledge has come from.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. So yeah, and if anyone missed those, that you can find them under Commander's profile on House of Mages as well. So I'll put all the links in there. Awesome, brother. Well, thank you again. And looking forward to our next chat about Vedic astrology.
Sounds good, brother. Thank you so much. Lots of appreciation.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Make Yoga Magic Again, the official podcast of the House of Mages. I'm Daniel Cumming. Thank you so much to Kimmana Nichols for being my guest for today. If you're interested in what either of us are doing, you can head to thehouseofmages.com. Otherwise, there's also direct links in whatever podcast platform you're listening to. We have an online school of yoga and the magical arts, and we'd love for you to be a part of it in whatever way suits you. Thank you again, and remember to make yoga magic again.